Hello everybody, Luke Taylor here with another album review, and today's album is 2004 Chevelle. This Type of Thinking Could Do Us In. So this is kind of going in the Wayback Machine for me. This is extremely nostalgic, and this album was really my entrance into heavy music, I guess is the best way to say it. It's kind of hard to put Chevelle in the box because they're really just, they're their own thing. And they kind of came around the same time of a lot of other new metal bands or alt metal or whatever you want to call it. You know, they would tour with Korn, Breaking Benjamin, Disturbed, that kind of stuff. So I remember I heard the song The Clincher on the Madden NFL soundtrack. And I never heard anything like that. The heaviest music that I'd heard until then was was Creed and the 1POD album, Fundamental Elements of Southtown. But I hadn't heard anything that had the screaming and had that kind of moshing headbang thing. And I remember I really wanted the album, and my grandparents got it for me, which is crazy if you think about it. My grandparents got it for me, and I remember Christmas Eve I sat there by myself, it was late at night, sat there by myself, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And just the whole, everything from the album art to the kind of stark prison-like thing they had going. I just kind of, the way that the words were written on a wall, the skeleton guy and the thing, they're kind of the way they had their little logo, their little clover. I just received the whole thing, and I got into Pete Loeffler's whole creative deal, and it's just, I don't know who I'd be without this album. It's one of those kind of things. At that time, I had been playing guitar for, I want to say, a year, perhaps a year, a little over a year, and it just kind of, every time I heard this album, I went and picked up my guitar and I would just riff. I knew what drop D was, those one-finger chords. I'd get the drum machine going, and I would just, get a nice crunchy sound, and I would just come up with stuff. And for some reason, this band and Pete Loeffler's guitar playing, his writing, but just this band, the way that they are very tight, it always has worked for me, and it always will. I can listen to this album, or I can listen to like the North Corridor, which is their latest album. I can listen to these, and I'll still get inspired. There's just something about it. At this time, I hadn't heard anything that was this heavy, but it was also really well produced. So it wasn't just like hardcore punk or something that was like aggression and screaming. It was really well produced, and it was a very thoughtful product that they had made. And Elvis Basket's mixing of this album was really, really conscious, and it worked really well to their strengths. I think at this time, because Wonder What's Next, which was before this, that was a big hit. That was a really huge hit. And the album was really popular. So them going forward in a direction like I don't know what their thoughts were with this album, but this was where I met the band, and it really worked for me at the time, and it still works for me. But I think though, if I had come to this band in the Wonder What's Next era, I wouldn't have connected with them at that time and with the way they sounded. But with this sound, it was just so interesting. It was so cool. It was so heavy but melodic, and the flow of the album is fantastic. It's 43 minutes, if I remember right. But just start to finish, I remember I had my iPod, and The Clincher was my #1 song that I listened to. The Clincher, if you haven't heard it, that's just a great example to hear kind of what they sound like. The big singles from this, of course, is Vitamin R. I remember watching that video every time it was on like TRL or something. I'm gonna throw it in the Wayback Machine there for you guys to remember TRL. Back when, VH1 would play music videos and stuff. But it was one of those things too, I just couldn't get enough of the band. I wanted to know more about them and learn about them, and I thought it was so cool that they were three brothers and that they were rocking out. They had such a tightness with the way they wrote, and they wrote for each other. They really, they really write something that's it's so interesting, but they play it really, really tightly. And the thing is too, is you can really hear Pete's influences as he's growing as a musician in this album, because there's the whole Tool influence is, I think, way stronger in this album, and then as they move forward in their future with future albums, which I will review, of course, the Tool influence grows, and the kind of the writing, you know, and the Alice in Chains kind of thing, and it still holds its weight to me. Of course, you can never hear something for the first time ever again, but I do remember that very well, and I don't remember that for a lot of albums, but this one is one of them for sure, and I'm so thankful for this band, and that they're still going, they're still touring, they're still putting out great albums, they're still writing. And I always think that Pete's got more to say. He's always researching and thinking and reading and traveling. He's always, you know, living life through music. And sometimes his songs are a bit abstract, but if you analyze them too much. But then they're actually about something really simple. So I think the thing is it might not connect mentally if you think about it too much, but you just listen to it and you just kind of absorb it, and it connects to you. And I know this was very important to me at this age, and I listened to it constantly. I listened to it probably too loud. You know, I put my headphones and crank the volume, and it's just good memories with this. Good memories with this. And some albums at this era in my life I can look back on and they make me a little sad, but this one doesn't. I just don't know what else to say other than if you listen to this album, if you never heard it before, please get it and listen to it, or check out, like, I'll put the Vitamin R link to the Vitamin R video below. I just can't say enough about this. This has such great production for this era, and a very, very conscious effort to make a really well-produced album. The sounds are really, really great. He's playing like a one-of-a-kind Paul Reed Smith baritone. I remember, I think it was white, and it just has a great sound. Not too much gain on the guitar. It's just heavy, and the way that they do the bass, like there's this buzzing bass, and Sam's drums they're artistic, but they're really nice. They're like meaty, but they're artistic. He'll do a lot of the stuff with the hi-hats. Some of the songs they have a more emotional quality than you'd expect. And that's what I guess what I'm saying, that just kind of rambling on here, but I guess that I'm saying that I really connected to it at the moment when I heard it, and with this kind of incarnation of Chevelle as they moved in the future, because there was a lot more more of a maturity, I think, more emotion and more character. And there are a lot of songs that are about the music business and about how tough it is and the pressure, but I know there's some other songs, and I just feel them personally, and I did back then and I do now as well. I just really love this album. I love the sound of it. Chevelle has always been one of my favorite bands and one of the most important bands to me. You know, they always make me creative, and I do really love to listen to their sound. They still sound like them, and I think they always will, so long as Pete and the boys are playing music. Now I know that Joe hasn't played with them for years, but that's okay, because Dean is awesome, and he's still a part of the family. So long live Chevelle, kings of Chevelle music, kings of alt metal and whatever kind of stuff they're doing. I can't say anything more about this other than you should hear it if you haven't. My rating for this is gold. This album is a part of my life, and I'm very thankful for it, and I really hope that you enjoy it if you haven't heard it before. So please let me know what you think. Click the box, click the bell, and I'll see you later.